Okay, so today I'm going to go over some water quality tests with you. Water quality tests are exactly what they say. They test the quality of the water. So there are chemical tests that we can do if we just take a sample of water, and then there's tests that you have to do in the field. Chemical tests: copper, iron, total hardness, chlorine, pH, nitrates. In the field, you have to do these in the field, so you have to do them in the creek. Dissolved oxygen, turbidity, flow rate, temperature. Dissolved oxygen is just the amount of oxygen that's in the stream, so this varies with if the water's kind of still or if it's rushing. Of course, if it's rushing, it's putting more oxygen in it. Turbidity is just how cloudy it is. Flow rate is just how fast the water is flowing, and temperature, obviously, is how hot or cold the water is. You do want a lot of dissolved oxygen, so you want that number to be high, and you want temperature to be low for better water quality. You want turbidity to be low. That's just the particles in it, so you don't want a lot of dirt and stuff around in it. Flow rate, it doesn't really matter. There are parts of the streams or rivers that are faster, and there's some that are slower, so that's okay. All right, so what I have with me, these are just little test strips like you would use for like your swimming pool. So I've got some water. I'm doing tap water right now. So I'm going to show you tap water. So the first one that I dipped it in was for the chlorine test. So this was the total chlorine test. And I'm using this little card here to compare it to. So it didn't really change colors. So I'm saying that there's not a lot of chlorine in it. Looks like total chlorine could be like a 0.1. This is parts per million up here, free chlorine. Total chlorine, so it does have a tiny bit in it. Looks like it's about 0.1. So it does have a little bit of chlorine in the tap water. Okay, the next one was iron. So I just dipped the iron one in here and compared it. When I compared it, it looked like it came out to be around a 0.05. It has a very faint pink color to it. So it's about a 0.05. So it's got a little bit of iron in it. Copper. So the copper test, I had to dip it in and do it back and forth for a few minutes. When I did that, it came out to be a purpley color. So looks like it's in between a 0.1 and a 0.5, so probably like around a 0.3, somewhere around in there. And I did this one a minute ago. It's kind of lightened up a little bit since then. So the next one that I'm going to do is nitrate. Nitrates are basically just fertilizers, and those get in water from people using fertilizer on land. Fertilizers work good on land. They do not work well with water. So if fertilizers get into water, it causes something called eutrophication, and I'll write that down in a minute. But what it is, it's causing too much algae to bloom in the water. It's doing the same thing that it does on land. It helps plants grow, but it makes algae grow in water, which takes out the dissolved oxygen, and stuff starts to die out. So if you see land or water that has algae in it, it's not a good thing. Algae never means that it has good water quality. All right, so this is a nitrate test. It says dip one test strip into water sample for 2 seconds without motion. Remove, hold level, and wait for 1 minute. Okay, so I'm going to hold it level for 1 minute and see what it does. So nitrates are the one that I was telling you about. That has to do with fertilizers in the water. Let me go ahead and write this on here while we're waiting for that. So this is from fertilizers. It is not good. Basically, it's too many nutrients. Try not to turn these over. so too many nutrients in the water. It causes low dissolved oxygen. O2 is just a symbol for oxygen, and it causes algae to grow. So that is not a good thing. You get those from farms, are the main place. Farms and golf courses, because they're always trying to fertilize stuff and get it to look nice or grow well, but it's not necessarily good for the water quality. I'm gonna go ahead and flip over to the ones on the back while we're waiting on that other one. The next one is pH, or it's also called total alkalinity. This is from the pH scale. pH scale goes from 0 to 14, where 7 is neutral. You want everything to be around 7. Anything under 7 is an acid. Anything above 7 is a base. So it says dip 1 test strip into the water sample for 10 seconds without motion and remove the strip. Okay, this is wait 15 seconds and match the colors. So we're gonna do this. You're going to see that these are not always the most accurate, these little test strips. If we get the chance, I have some like computer probes that we can use that digitally reads all of this, and it gives you a really accurate reading. So I'm gonna try to get those. The last one is total hardness. Just dip the test strip into water sample for 3 seconds. Remove and immediately match the color. So we've got 1, 2, 3. So it's looking like it's around a 1. Total hardness means that it does not have anything dissolved in it. So you don't have like a lot of calcium in it. You're not gonna have a lot of iron and all of those things in it. And that makes sense with tap water because it's been filtered. So you shouldn't have a lot of stuff in it. I'm gonna look back at the pH and total alkalinity. So we're gonna look at this and compare them. So it looks like the pH is about 6. Total alkalinity is around 0. And it says it may read low total alkalinity if it's less than 80 parts per million. So it's saying basically under 80, it's not a really accurate reading. And that's what these test strips, they just kind of give you a general idea. So if the pH is around 6, that means that it's slightly acidic. So it's not a big deal because it's not that far away from 7. So that's not something that you're really gonna need to worry about. Looks like the nitrate one was supposed to turn some kind of purple color, and we did not get that. So we're gonna say there's no nitrates in it. There should not be nitrates in tap water because you shouldn't have fertilizers. It should be processed out. It should be filtered out and purified when they process the tap water. Okay, so let me write a couple more things. The pH scale goes from 0 to 14. 7 is neutral. Anything under 7 is an acid. Anything above 7 is a base. Okay, so you want stuff to be around 7. This is like the magic number for it. The further you get away from 7, the stronger the acid gets. So if you get around 1 or 0, it's a really, really strong acid. It will burn your skin. It will do a lot of damage. Bases do a lot of damage as well. So the closer you get to 14, the more destructive they can be. Total hardness, you hear this a lot of times. You hear the term hard water at your house. You might have to have a filter because you have hard water. That's just a term that they use for that. Mostly around here it's because of, in most places, it's calcium carbonate, which is just limestone that's dissolved in it. You can have other things. My house has a lot of iron in it. If I don't have a filter, then there's always that rusty color around the sinks or in the toilet bowl. So that's why I have to keep a filter on there. My filter, when I take it out every month, is just like the color of rust because it's got iron in it. My parents have a lot of copper in their water, and it's not necessarily coming from the land or from the water that's in their well. It's coming from their pipes. So their house was built in the 80s, and I think it was a pretty common thing back then for people to use copper pipes. But it's also getting copper into the water, like as the water pulls through the pipe. We didn't really know that until when I was in high school. I had an aquarium and the fish kept dying, so they gave me a filter to put in the fish filter for the tank. And the filter, when it turned a certain color, it was like one of these tests. It told you what was in there and what was basically killing the fish. Well, mine turned green, so if it turned green, it was copper. Of course, the reddish color was iron. But it was the copper that was actually killing the fish, so they were getting too much copper, and it was affecting how they were breathing. Okay, so that's pretty much it for the water quality test. These are just little test strips. Like I said, these are not the most accurate things, but they just kind of give you a general idea. If I get the computers where I could show you, I'll go over those with you, and hopefully we can do some of that out in the field pretty soon. So water quality tests tell you the quality of the water. You want dissolved oxygen to be up, turbidity to be low, temperature to be down. You do not want a lot of stuff in your water, so you want copper, iron, total hardness, chlorine, and nitrates to be low. So your goal is to have all of these low. You don't ever want to have a bunch of stuff dissolved in your water, and you want this one to be neutral. So you want your pH to be neutral, so you want it to be around 7. Okay?